I'm Melody Tovar, regulatory manager with the city of Sunnyvale, and I hardly ever get to deal with a light regulatory touch. So I'm already excited about CCA more today than I was yesterday. So in Sunnyvale, for us, our interest was sparked by our climate action plan. And this is probably true for quite a few communities. I'll go through a few slides to illustrate exactly why our CAP prompted this. We just adopted our climate action plan. Our council just approved it in May of this year. So very exciting. About 130 different activities, projects, or tactics in that to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We set our targets beyond the 2020 target identified in AB 32. So rather than the 15%, ours goes closer to 30% for the 2020 timeframe, and then beyond that for 2035. And this is a quick portfolio of how our GHG emissions inventory looks like. And you'll notice over toward the right-hand side that the residential and commercial industrial energy consumption covers together 55% of our GHG emissions inventory. This is based on our 2008 baseline study. So 55% of our GHGs are coming from energy consumption in our community. If you cut those two pieces of the pie further and look at gas versus electricity, electricity alone is 37%. So how we change where we're getting our electricity from is an important part of how we approach our CAP implementation. And these are the strategies included in our climate action plan. So there are, like I said, about 130, 140 actions, but they all fall under these strategies. And you can see the familiar topic areas of transportation and waste reduction, and also energy and water conservation. And then you'll see this really huge green bar. Does this work? Right there. Can I do that? Right there in the middle, like I had to point that out. So it is the largest thing in our CAP. And as it says on the bottom of the slide, it's larger than everything else in the CAP. So you can do community choice aggregation in Sunnyvale, and you can do everything else and reach 30%. If we did only everything else, our CAP, we would reach closer to 15. And here's another way to look at it. So again, CCA, 54% of our overall emissions target is achieved through CCA. Everything else together is less than that. And so for us, we're looking at CCA as this tremendously impactful strategy that we can do systematic change versus household per household change. We can have a long-standing impact, and we can do it relatively quickly compared to the other 39 actions sitting in the plan. And here, maybe very comparable to what Jamie described earlier, is the profile of what our CAP assumed a CCA program would look like in terms of penetration within our community. So our 2020 target was to have 80% participation, so not more than 20% of our participation load opting out of the program. And then of those in the program, 60% of the total being in light green, which again we targeted just like Marin Clean Energy at 50% renewables, and then having some type of dark green energy profile at 100% renewables, and having 20% of our community enrolled in that kind of program by 2020. So it's super exciting to see that this was actually drafted in 2011 as Marin was about to launch and Sonoma was stewing. So to see active programs that are living and breathing and meeting those kinds of targets at competitive rates for customers is exciting. So our council, in addition to our climate action plan, also prioritized a specific study issue for community choice aggregation just before adopting our overall plan. Our Sustainability Commission, which is the council-appointed committee that reports directly to the council, identified this as so important we shouldn't wait for council to actually decide on the whole of the CAP if we don't have to. And so they wanted to put our feet in the water early on CCA. And so they proposed this study to the council, and the council prioritized it. They funded it for up to $30,000 from Sunnyvale, coming from our general fund. And there were 4 key questions they wanted to know before we really start to swim. 1, who else might be with us? So we probably don't have to do this alone. And the cost of setup is probably some bucket of money that doesn't get that much bigger if you double the number of customers you have to serve. Second, what are those costs and risks? Sunnyvale has been heralded for its 20-year budgeting process, and so we are fiscally conservative and careful, and this is consistent with that. And somebody mentioned this earlier, what else could we do and achieve in our climate action plan if we did CCA? So funding for energy conservation, funding for local renewables, the power of a CCA to help achieve that also enticing. And then how best to move forward. What agency does what are the various steps? So that's what they want us to answer. We now have 3 contributing funding communities to this study, so it's no longer a Sunnyvale study. It is Mountain View. There's high fives in the back. There's Mountain View, Cupertino, and Sunnyvale all contributing funding to this study, and we've had interest expressed from a number of other communities: Los Altos Hills, Montserrat, Morgan Hill, Santa Clara County, and even San Mateo County. We have at least one representative from that county, the city of, here today. My time is already up. So here's our general timeline. I do have copies of the presentation and can share it later. I'll just take you to our end target. We're hoping to get to our council in January of 2015, answering their 4 key study questions. And so we've got a journey to go here today. Today was a really important part. Part of what's been exciting about this is seeing the willingness of the active CCAs to support emerging CCAs and all of the, quite frankly, free support that's being offered to us to help understand the landscape. It's tremendous, and I'm grateful. And we recognize we're just on a part of a journey. You've heard all of these steps here today, but here's how we've mapped them out. Jeff is going to tease us later this afternoon, I think, with some ways to make this even more efficient. But today we're talking about the tens of thousands of dollars investment. The next big step, typically before you form a JPA, is the hundreds of thousands of dollars in study. Then you're forming a JPA and you're looking at building an organization and starting your contracts. And then you're in the hundreds of millions of dollars when you've got a full-fledged operation. So this is how we're mapping out the resource commitment, remembering that when you get to this end game, you're able to recover all of these other investments that you've made along the way, as long as you get to your end game. But we recognize there's still some other questions we've got. So part of our study will be to collaborate with whomever else is interested to answer all of our questions and give our council good direction so they can in turn give us good